Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of The Growth Room. Wow, okay. I think I say this every episode. I can't believe I'm here, but I am. I took a bit of a break last week, for those who don't know. Honestly, transparent moment, I was going through a lot. And it's so interesting that, that this episode is exactly what I was going through.
Ooh, tea.
But we're here, right? And I'm doing it. As you can see, I'm not alone.
She's never alone.
Jesus with me. Don't worry. As you can see, I'm not alone. I have my friend, my leader at church. I know my leader at church, but also my friend Tola. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. What do you want me to say in my introduction?
You are, your name, you know, what you do.
Okay.
Something interesting about you. Let's do the whole icebreaker.
Okay. I actually prepped my interesting facts today. But my name is Tola. I go to church with Miriam, and yes, we are friends. And yes.
What do you do?
What do I do? Yes. I'm a registered psychotherapist. Wait, in the church or
in life?
Okay.
In
life, I am a child of God. I'm also a registered psychotherapist, and in church I do admin. So
okay, that's nice. Well,
fun fact.
Yes.
Yo, guys, it's not tomato on. Sorry, it's not ketchup on everything.
Oh my god, not coming from me.
But it is. I have a strong dislike of people going into my bed with their outside clothes. Like if you come over to my house and you try to sit on my bed with your outside clothes, it's over. You can't do that.
You know, there was a point in my life I used to iron my bed.
You know, I don't have the time or the energy for that, but I'm trying to I would love to get there in life, but I'm not there. Yeah. I do lay my bed.
Yeah, I would lay my bed and I iron the sheets and everything. And once I did that, the steamer. And then once I did that, you can sit on my bed. Even I can sit on my bed.
No, even I can't sit on my bed with outside clothes. I have to change into my inside clothes.
The inside clothes and then.
And then go.
Today we're talking about a topic or discussion or conversation that is very dear to my heart for 2 reasons. Mainly because I've struggled with it personally, and also because I know what it means to be misunderstood through it, and not necessarily intentionally misunderstood in that people are intentionally trying to be annoying. A lot of people just don't know how to deal with it by themselves, when they are going through it, and also when people around them are going through it, they have no idea how to actually help or be of help, accessible help. So this conversation is going to be very vulnerable on my end because and I can't lie, it's been a lot to get here to a point where I'm actually able to openly talk about it, because I like my life very private. I don't like having my business out there, and honestly my business is not going to be out there. But as a very wise friend of mine said, and she's going to watch this and laugh, she said to me that you can't build community without vulnerability. And it's so ironic because the whole slogan of this podcast is vulnerability. So ask me why I'm afraid to be vulnerable. Yeah, anyway, but I feel like God has prepped me to a point where I'm able to sit in front of a camera and actually talk about it. Not because people talk about certain things, they just kind of
They don't talk about it.
They just
yeah.
Can you guys see why she's here? Can you guys see why she's here? Yeah, okay. So yeah, I feel like we're gonna actually address a lot of the deep rooted questions that maybe you might have, but I know I had as I was going through. So this is not a Bible expose on how to deal with mental health. It's more just 2 people having a conversation. She's more experienced in it because this is what she deals with every day. This is literally her 9-to-5 job. And as somebody who has dealt with it and is still battling and going through the journey of victory. See, journey of victory is not a journey of just battling, it's a journey of victory. I have some tips and tricks that can help you, and also just finally have somebody talk about it, actually talk about it and not just talk about it. Yes. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for her. She's honestly just here to answer all my questions, to be honest. This is a free therapy session. So grab your water, your juice, your hopefully not wine, as it is 12 in the afternoon, but
I mean, what if they're watching this at like 8 p.m.?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Please
Sure.
don't grab the wine.
Just juice.
You want to be
sober for this.
Yeah.
Water, juice, even coffee. Just keep you alert for a week. Jazz it up a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. So just to say, like, the topic today is about mental health, and specifically on anxiety, depression, and addictions. And because those are the three that I'm familiar with. I don't want to talk about something that I don't know about or I'm not well versed in, and also that's also my area of expertise as God will have it. So the first question is, what's your definition of anxiety, depression, and addiction, specifically to like porn, I guess, specifically, but like it could be anything else.
Okay, so I guess my definition, and I'll just break it down. So definition of depression is just persistent feelings of sadness, of like hopelessness, if you're not interested in the things that you used to be interested in before. But it's not just like one day I'm feeling sad and I don't want to do the things that
I'm used to doing.
Yeah, it's like for a long period of time. So that's depression. Anxiety is if you're finding that you're constantly worried about the future, and like even things that maybe people don't tend to worry about, like if I get in my car, will my car, like all of these things that are just like there's no context.
That's
anxiety. And then addiction, and porn addiction, alcohol addiction, weed addiction, any sort of addiction is just when you have a loss of control around your behaviors in regards to something. So if it's porn, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to do this thing anymore, but I'm finding myself in a position where I can't stop engaging with it. So addiction is loss of control, anxiety is worry, depression is sadness. But of course, all of these things have to be like within context.
Within context,
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. Honestly, I feel like I'm also here to learn. So don't think that I'm here to just be like, oh, I know everything. No, I'm here to learn. Like I said to you, it's a free therapy session for me, and hopefully for you if you decide to listen.
You have tissues in case I start crying?
I have.
You said you won't cry?
No. I've decided that I will not shed a tear.
Tell that to the spirit. Don't tell that to me.
The only time you find me crying on camera is at church. Okay? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. If I actually start crying, please off this camera. This is a bit of a personal question, but honestly, what led you to becoming a therapist? I feel like I just asked this for.
Whew. Yeah. I think because I've experienced my own, and I didn't really have the words or the language to describe what I felt growing up, but I think now looking back, because I experienced my own set of traumas, my own feelings of depression, of anxiety, I was like, I don't want people to feel this way. And so I was like, okay, like how can I help somebody? And so the initial thing that I wanted to do was to actually become a neuropsychologist. And we were just talking about research, like before we started filming, and I realized that while I was still interested in like why people are the way they are and helping them, it wasn't in the way that God needed me. Yeah, needed me. I think I'm more somebody who like I can sit down and have a conversation with you and really help you understand and discover and learn and grow, versus like doing research on a bunch of people and then being like, this is what the study shows.
Yeah, so, this is what I found. So do it what you will.
Yeah,
okay,
so I pivoted into psychotherapy.
It's cool. Okay, so how do we identify if or when we struggle with anxiety, depression, or even, obviously I know that you kind of defined it, but what are some things that like, you know, we can look for in ourselves and also in the people around us, and just be like, okay, hey, I feel like there might actually be an issue here. Like, where do the issues stem from? What can we see ourselves like express in terms of behavior that will lead us to come to the conclusion? Obviously, you shouldn't diagnose yourself, yes, but like at least enough to know that I need to go to someone else for help, be it my friend, because sometimes people don't even know how to access like a therapist, like my friend or my parents or even my pastor. Like, what are the signs, telling signs like let me know that, okay, there's something off here?
I think the biggest sign that is like consistent across the board is isolation. Because I think that with like depression, anxiety, addictions, other mental health conditions, there's so many ways in which it manifests or show up. But if you're finding that you're in a place where like I don't feel like I can talk to somebody about what's going on for me, I don't want to talk to somebody about what's going on for me, I feel like embarrassed or like I just don't want to talk about it, then I'm like, go and find somebody to talk to. Yeah, because then it's like it's with community that people be like, hey, you know, I noticed that you're somebody who loves to do this, you love to do that, and you're not really doing and engaging with that anymore. Like, what's going on? And so, like, the community that you have around you is a good sort of mirror, or like not even mirror, but like they're helpful for you to be like, oh yeah, you know, I have been feeling or experiencing a lot of sad mood recently, and I didn't even realize that I was in this.
I was in this space.
But I think that the moment that you realize that I'm feeling really isolated and really lonely, and like I can't talk to anybody about something, that's probably when it's gone too far. So.
That's so the isolation, like the extreme end of isolation, where you're like you don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's when it's gone too far.
Yeah, and the isolation isn't even like, because I think that sometimes people are like, oh no, but like I go to church, I hang out with my friends, I go to school and stuff like that, and I'm not isolated. There's people around me, but like deep within your soul, in your mind, if you're like, there's this thing that I'm going through that nobody even knows about.
Yeah.
Then that's isolation. So it's not even just like that you don't have people around you. It's that like you don't feel like you can talk about something specific.
That's interesting because that's literally what happened to me. That's like, this is exactly what happened to me last week, and I feel like what you said is just so apt, because I know that for me, whenever I start to go down that road of just like, my brother is always telling me like, why are you running? Like, who is chasing you? Because like people will come and like knock on my door or like be like, oh, text me, and I just would take hours to reply, and it's not because I don't want to like talk to them, but I know that the conversation will come up, and I just don't want to talk about it, and I always run from it, to be honest. Partially because I have been burned a little bit like in my past based on like talking about it, because I used to be one, sometimes talks, not a lot to be honest, but like I found that like sometimes people can't handle, or rather the way I think about it when I'm in those like moments is that people can't handle what I'm going through, and like only me and God can. And a lot of times I'm not even talking to God about it. Let's even give it that. So it's not like I'm isolating myself and I'm praying. No, I'm isolating myself and I just am either binge eating or just not like just watching Netflix the whole day and losing all my brain cells, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like that's something that I've noticed a lot in myself. And another thing that I would like to add to that is just like getting to a point where it almost feels like you're hopeless. Like I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but it's like things that a week ago or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago you could swear on your life that it's gonna happen. Like even if I don't see it right now, I'm okay, I'm fine. You get to this place where you're like, okay, nothing's working out for me. My life is a mess. I don't want to be here anymore. And like it's just, you just go down this like slippery spiral of just thoughts, and before you know it, you're like, oh wow, okay, I think I actually need help.
It's so important why being in community, because before you get to that point of hopelessness, like people would have caught you. Like it's like, oh, I'm noticing this thing. Okay, you're not gonna go and pray by yourself in the closet. We're two or more gathered, we're gonna pray together. So unless you're Jesus going up to the mountain or Moses going up to the
we need to pray together.
We need to pray together. So don't confuse your single prayer by yourself.
I feel like
as in not being isolation. Like,
wow, some of my friends are probably listening and watching and be like, Miriam, are you hearing? Are you hearing? So where do you think depression and anxiety and even addiction could have stemmed from? I know that there are like a myriad of options, like childhood trauma or even just like adult onset trauma, because there's some traumas that like people can maybe have not experienced like these things up until maybe they had a very good childhood, and then they come and one man breaks it or church hurt, or like something happens along the way. So like what are some common ones that you have seen that made you be like, okay, this is really like a reason why people go into these like situations?
I would say relationships, like not just relationships with like your person you're trying to kiki with, like familial relationships with members at church, whether that be pastors or leaders or whatever. Like the moment and hurt enters a relationship, that's hard. So I think that depression, anxiety, addictions, a lot of mental health stem from relationships, like relationship hurt. Sometimes people just like, and it sucks, but sometimes people just have like the characteristics to have mental health, right?
Okay.
And so like, and I say this with caution because like you can be somebody who, all of your chemicals are not balanced, and you still don't experience it, mental health because you're in a place where you're being nurtured in a way that's good, like spiritually nurtured in a way that's being good. You're being well fed spiritually. You have a supportive community. You know how to like assess the things that are stressful for you, and you know how to handle things. And then there's some people where it's like, because I don't have any of these things, and I have like all of the things that I need to, be a depressed person, for example. One thing will just set it off, and then that starts like a myriad of mental health issues.
Okay,
so.
That makes sense. I've actually never heard of that. I feel like everyone that I've known, or people, at least people that are around me that I know maybe we shared our struggles with each other, have always had like a childhood like onset type thing, but that situation where everything else around you is kind of like is primed for you to be wow.
Yeah.
I actually never thought of that. We were midway through recording, and the storage space said no. But the devil works, but Jesus works harder. Okay? So I'm now filming on my phone, so forgive me if like the crop and like everything is off. But I need to get this video out, and it's reason why. So here I'm gonna do it. Okay? Okay. So the last question before the camera did whatever it was doing was, where do these issues stem from? So
right.
Can we go back to that?
So yeah, I was talking about how sometimes I see clients who, despite all odds, and this maybe despite everything that's been happening to you, you should be in a far off worse situation and place than you're in right now. But it's the fact that they had like certain communities or people around them that the thing that happened to them was not as like it didn't affect them as badly as it should
and
so I mean there's some people where I'm like, your issues they're important, but they're escalated and exacerbated because of the people that you had around you. What was meant to be small became big because of your community and your surroundings, versus in another situation what was big is actually small because you had like good people around you. So I think that like, I don't know, mental health issues can stem from anywhere, but a lot of the times it's like how did you feel supported when those things were happening that tends to determine like the mental health issues
or what exactly will result from those situations.
Exactly.
I feel like what you said about relationships, so the point in my life where I was just, I think I was telling God that I just don't want to be around people anymore, because I feel like so much pain has come from like people, and this is not a shade to anybody or feeling like, oh no, like, because I play my own roles too, but lots of like relationships, like family relationships, and like even just friends or family, like not because my family is good, but like friends or family, or like people that you meet in school, they can do so much damage to you. And I feel like the worst part is that like they end up in their lives and they're okay, and you're now here suffering the brunt of their actions. And it's just a whole journey, to be honest. But yeah, relationships do harm, but that's not to tell you that, oh, you should now be one of those people that are like, oh, I don't know some people, I don't like people. Because the truth about it is that you really can't do life alone, even if it's not with like a huge like community of people. But a community can literally just be 2 or 3 people like that are in your corner and know that like you're there for them. Sorry, they're there for you. You can't do this life thing alone. So as much as people can hurt you, and like people closest to you are the ones that can hurt you the most, but that shouldn't stop you from like actually making relationships. It's like saying that, oh, I got burnt once, so I'll never cook again. Okay.
Math is not math.
Like 1 + 1 = 15.
That means we're just never gonna eat again.
Like, be for real. But okay, so the next question is, do you think that there is a spiritual basis to mental health? If so, what is that spiritual basis? Like, I've heard a lot of sermons and like maybe statements made during sermons about like mental health, and some of it I think to myself, I'm like, does this person even know what it means to actually deal with these things? And this is not to say that like if your pastor talking to you about mental health is wrong. No, 100% they should, because it's a thing that people experience and go through. But some of these comments have been so off, and I'm just like, someone's like, oh, you're sad because you're choosing to be sad. And in my head I'm like,
sorry, that one. I was not expecting that.
Like I've been in rooms where like my friends are just looking at me. I'm like, okay, but I just take it as, okay, maybe they just have not, like, maybe it's misinformation, or the context with which they said it, maybe it didn't really come across like well. But I have like heard some very, very interesting statements, especially in church, like about people that are struggling with mental health. I heard someone say like, oh, Gen Z acts like they're the only ones that have like mental health. In my head I'm like, we never said that, but okay.
Oh. I just need to take a breath
because
this is actually, and God is working on me, guys. We're not perfect people, but this is my beef sometimes. Kind of like what I was saying about how you can have all of the characteristics that you need to have a mental health condition, and I think that another part of that characteristic is how you're being spiritually fed, or how you're being spiritually taken advantage of. So like, if you have this, that, and the other thing, and like you're like so close to being depressed, and the devil sees you, and the devil is like, ooh, I'm gonna go get her.
Yeah.
That's a factor. So I think that yes, mental health can 1,000% be spiritual. And I also think that we need sensitivity as like church folk to address these conditions. It's not every day kabashing. Like, yes, let's pray together. Let's be sensitive towards what's going on. Let's speak truth. So I'm not saying don't sugarcoat things. Don't talk to specific issues if they are spiritual versus if they are physical versus if they are emotional. But like, be sensitive about how you approach it. You know? Especially because people who also have mental health conditions are so vulnerable. And like, if you're, I don't know, for example, a pastor and you're saying something in a way that is very insensitive, that person is less likely to come back to you for help. And then what that does is isolation. And then what that does is the devil is like, ooh, this person doesn't have a community. Let me go in even harder. So I think that we need to be spiritually sensitive when we address mental health conditions. Sorry, that was a big rant. But
yeah, it's okay, honestly, because I find that there's something that Pastor G always says that whenever the devil wants to really like take your life on that siege, one of the first things he does is to like remove you from the community that you have. And it's not necessarily that you are like, or people hurt you. Sometimes it's just like some statements that are made burn, and like because of how like burning they are, you might feel like, okay, even if I come to this person with this new thing that's happening, I will be misunderstood. So as opposed to that, I will stay at home. And people now watch like church online, because it's not like they don't want to be in church and they don't want to know God or hear about God. It's just that they just know that they are not okay, and when asked what exactly is going on, they don't trust that what they will see will land in safe hands. And I feel like not only just in church, I feel like this applies across the board, even like in your friendship group. When there's this thing that me and my friend Lika are talking about, shout out Lika, like we're talking about, and she was talking about how like sometimes when your friends gather you in one room and they do this like intervention thing where you are the problem, you are the issue, like your mental health is the issue. And like I understand that a lot of it comes from a good place, and 100% like there's nothing wrong with your friends gathering around you, like, okay, we're here for you, like what's up, like let's talk. But sometimes if we're not careful, certain words and tones and intonations that are being made can make the person feel like I'm the issue. Like, you know, the Taylor Swift song, hi, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. Like it's like the person ends up leaving feeling like they might not tell you that. They will probably thank you for like, you know, your nice words and everything that you said and did for them, but internally they know that I'm never coming back here again. Not because what you said was wrong. You could have been seeing a lot of truth, but the way you approached the subject is just off. But I feel like we'll get to that. I feel like I actually want us to talk about how to navigate having loved ones who are actually struggling. I feel like a lot of people don't even know what to say. They're almost walking on eggshells around the people that they love that are going through this. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing, but I feel like kind of educating or like talking about certain things that you can do, things to avoid saying. I'm just doing. I know someone who said to a friend of mine, is it like why do you always have like mental health problems? And I was like,
oh my god,
it's like walking into a hospital and sending someone who has cancer. Why do your cells keep like replicating?
Why do you always have tumors?
Like why do you have tumors? Like
what
are they doing?
That is so heartbreaking. And yeah, if we're gonna get into how to support, but I'm like, listen, I'm not leaning on my own understanding. I'm just human as well, right? So I know that when people come and approach me, even in my clinical work, I'm always like, God, don't come and use me as your mouthpiece, because what do I have to say this life? Like, and I'm like, no. And I also think it's important to check in, like, and I also think, sorry, I think a lot of things.
It's okay.
Yes, truth, but also like timing. Just because something is true, it's always going to be true if it's a truth, but you saying it now versus you saying it a little bit later when you've developed a deeper and more meaningful relationship with somebody, it hits different with more time, when that person feels a lot safer with you and feels like they can trust you. If the first time I'm coming to see you and you're just like, I'm really not coming back. I'm really not coming back.
Like 100%. I don't think you go
safe.
on your spitfire like roast of like why you always doing this, and I'm just there like,
bruh. And also like, if this is the first time you've ever addressed something with me and you're coming in hot, it's different if it's like we've had many conversations that have been like, hey, like I'm noticing that this is coming up and this is how your behaviors are making me feel, or I feel like I can't support you, or that's different than the first time you sit down with somebody and now start doing intervention. Like, so you're the problem because of this, that. Immediate difference. I'm not even hearing what you're saying. I'm just holding the tears back so I can go and cry in my car after. Like, girl, that's what's going on right now.
Girl, honestly, like I feel that on it, like, because sometimes you're just there like, oh, okay, and because you don't want to be tagged like defensive person, you just sit there and you're like, and then you leave and you are like, have you back at her like snot is coming out of your nose? You're just like, wow, like, and this is not to say that like you shouldn't take responsibility for the way you treat people because there's like, I think my next question is actually on that, talking about there's been this like bad rep for mental health where a lot of people will refuse to take responsibility for their actions and then blame it on mental health. So this is not one of those like, oh what, like it needs to be balanced. Like we actually need to talk about it from a balanced perspective.
Yeah.
So there's that end of people just not knowing how to speak or the timing on when or how, or even have the compassion or even understanding to speak. But there's also that sometimes you do certain things to elicit certain reactions out of people, and I always say this, right? It's like you can't expect to hurt people and not be there for your friends, not show up, be distant, and every single time it comes up, your only excuse is mental health. Because trust me, a lot of people are going through it, and this is not to shame you or to make you feel bad, but it is the truth that people are going through it. And if they're still able to show up in the way they need to, and even if you can't, being able to communicate that, okay, right now I don't feel like I can be this person for you in this way right now, simply because of X, Y, and Z. Your friends are not insane people. They're not going to be like, oh, but da, 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 da. And if they do, then that's an indication of something else entirely, right? But there has been this bad reputation that mental health, because it's really depression and anxiety. Kind of people will always say, "Oh, I'm doing it." I was watching. Have you watched Love Is Blind?
I stayed up till like 3 a.m.
The reunion.
I haven't seen. I haven't done that. I'm at the wedding.
Okay. I was spoiling, but just it looks.
I know what you're saying. I already know who you're talking about.
No, came there with it. But I'm like, no, and like this person kept mentioning panic attacks, and I was like, do you know what it looks like to have? I actually felt insulted. I've never had like I've had a couple, like I had one, but nothing like it wasn't major, but I've seen people have it.
Yeah. And
to me, it's an insult for them, because how are you being mean to someone and then saying, oh, you were having a panic attack? No, you weren't.
Yeah.
You just like, it's just, so how do we deal with that victim mentality when it comes, especially as Christians, like kind of stepping out of that place of always feeling like I'm the victim, and actually first of all taking responsibility for your actions or even lack thereof, but then being able to still communicate that this is what I need in this season, without making your friends feel like they're the worst things, like they're literally the worst thing, or they're not there for you as much. And this is something that I've done in the past, not being able to communicate this is actually how I feel, or rather feel like not being able to communicate in the right tone, and then having people around me feel like, okay, but I'm doing all of this for you and you just don't appreciate it. And like it actually burned a relationship that had just got restored, thank you Jesus, but I do like see how that can be an issue. So
that's so hard. Yes, communication. I think also like let's say you're the person who is kind of dealing with a mental health challenge. You need to understand that your friends, your family, your social support system, they're not trained professionals. Like you can't go in, or not that you shouldn't go and trauma dump on them. Like you need to help yourself and then position yourself to be supported by your friends, not that your friends are carrying you down, right? So if your friend is like setting up a boundary that, look, I'm there for you if it's a phone call and you want to like talk about something for 2 hours, but the moment it's 2:01, like it's 2 hours and a minute, that's my boundary, and I can't support you in that way anymore. You need to be able to understand that, like, okay, like I understand that yes, people are allowed to have boundaries, people are allowed to have different capacities for how they can and they cannot support me. I know myself personally, I'm not the friend that you call randomly in the middle of the day, because chances are I'm not with my phone. My phone is always on do not disturb. But if you're like, if we can schedule when you want to come and talk, come and find me, right? So I think that also understanding that your friends has, or your support system has specific capacity, and allowing yourself to use your support system to the capacity that they can. I also think that as a person who is struggling with a mental health disorder, it's important that you communicate what support looks like for you, right? So like if I'm somebody who I'm like, okay, maybe I don't like to talk about my things, but I like to be around somebody and we'll just watch Love Is Blind, for example. So somebody can come and be like, let's talk about it, and I'm like, that's not the support that I need right now. What I need from you is to sit down and be distracted, and I want to do that together with somebody. So you can't get mad if somebody's like really trying to support you in the way that they know best, but it's not the way that you need it.
If you haven't even communicated how exactly. Okay.
So
that makes a lot of sense. Like I actually want to talk about trauma bombing. Trauma bombing. I struggled with this.
Wait, bonding or dumping?
Dumping, sorry. The one where you just
open.
Like, you know how there's love bombing, but like trauma bombing.
Gotcha.
So you just come and you just pour.
Yes.
You don't think about the person's mental state before you even started. They might not even be struggling with a mental issue, but some people just have bad days, right? And like, you don't even think of what's going on in their life. You just call or you text, and the person could have been having the best day ever, and you just pour. And I used to do that a lot until a lot of things happened that led to the dissolution of a friendship, and I had to take a step back and actually analyze and be like, okay, what exactly happened here? And I've realized what you said. Like, I would like to say this: your friends are not your therapists. This sounds very like your friends.
I'm not your therapist. Even your therapist friends.
Yeah, even your therapist.
It's not your therapist.
Your friends are not your therapist. Your friends can't be your friends. Some people expect that your friends will be your therapist. They will be your friend. They will also be your parents. They will provide. They will be your prayer warriors. They will be your. Some people go as your boyfriends. You want them to give you everything that only God can give you. To be honest, like I'm keeping it a buck. Like, this is how it was told me. Like, you can't keep doing that anymore. And a lot of the time, we put our friends on these pedestals to be something that they're not ready to be. And this doesn't even really apply to friends. Your boyfriends too. Some of your boyfriends are suffering. I'm going to be 100%. Like, some of your boyfriends are suffering because you are going through something that they might not even have ever seen or encountered in their lives. Even if you have men who grew up in very holistic environments, who are not traumatized or broken, they probably have no idea what you're going through, and they don't even know how to help you. Number one, you refuse to help them help you because you don't want to like actually just be honest and say, okay, this is actually what's going on, and like account for the fact that you're also dealing with other people. You want them to be everything, and the moment they can't do everything you want them to do, you are setting off, and you're just like, honestly, I feel like we have to come to a point in friendships, especially as Christians, because when you're not getting to the point where people will now start using prayer and saying, oh, but like, aren't you supposed to be there for me? They are, but they can't be good. You have to remove your friends from that place of being like everything, because the only person that can be your therapist, your friend, your lover, your father, your mother is God. Jesus is the best therapist. At least if you can't afford to go to see like a physical one, talk to God about your problems. And I'm not saying you should not talk to your friends. You should, but you should also be sensitive of when, where, how. Like, understand that they're also going through their own things and be compassionate about that, and understand that you might not always be able to be there for you. And some friends can't be there for you, especially for your mental health issues. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we're talking about how we compartmentalize our friendships, and I didn't think that anybody else did it except me. I have friends that I go to that I know that, okay, I can say, hey, are you in the mood to talk? And they are like, okay, no, I'm busy right now, call me later, or what's going on, right? And I'm able to be like, okay, you know what, call me when you're free, and I can like now say, okay, this is what's going on. But I would have thought to what I want to say first. And I also have friends I know that I would never go to them for my mental health, not because they are bad or anything, but because I know that they don't have the capacity. It's like trying to fill like this bottle with like 50 liters of water. It's not going to happen because it can't hold. But they have friends who are graced for that, and I use this word very, very loosely. When I say grace, I don't mean that they are Jesus, or they died on the cross for you, or they can carry all your burden. And no, I just mean that they are able to. They have a bigger capacity than other people do, especially for you in that specific season. And they might not be that person in every season, but there are people who are able to understand. They might not, and they know how to set a boundary where they're like, okay, I understand and I'm here for you, but I'm not going to take this problem as mine, because I have some friends who are fixers. They want to fix everything for you, and sadly they can't. So they end up always feeling like their efforts are futile, even though it's not. But because they're not seeing any tangible change, it almost feels like, okay, but I'm trying and it's not helping. But there are also friends who are able to get in the mud with you and sit in the mud with you, but you also have to be sensitive of the fact that they are not everything, and only God can be everything to you.
You couldn't have said it perfectly. I think something else that I also want to add is, I forgot what I wanted to add.
It's okay.
Oh yes, okay, I remember now. Is that if you're the type of person who's only going to your friends when you need, that's not a relationship. That's not a friendship. That is just, I'm coming to take, and then once I've taken what I needed,
I'm gone.
Right. So I think that if you find yourself in a dynamic where maybe there's a group of people or a specific person that when you are feeling down, when you're feeling the feelings, they're the only, but you don't during the week, you don't check up on
With
them.
them.
You don't go to their birthday parties. You don't even pray for them. You don't know anything that goes on in their life. But when you need, that's not a relationship.
Right.
That is just I don't know what that is, but it's not a
And the only
relationship.
person that can handle that is good.
Even God doesn't want that though.
He doesn't want that, but if he needs to handle that for a bit of a season to help you.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, the people that has the capacity to even handle,
Yeah.
like even he doesn't want that. So that should tell you that your friends do not want that.
Yeah.
That thing where you remove yourself from everybody's life and then you resurface when you need help and then you leave again. There's nothing wrong with asking for help when you need it, but you also have to take into account. So when your friends start getting upset at you, don't play the victim and be like, oh, they don't understand what's going on. They just they are no, they're not traumatizing you. You have traumatized yourself. Like it sounds really, really bad, but the truth about it is that you have burned bridges. People who were actually genuinely willing to help you are now scarred because it's like you only come to them when they can't even call you when they have good news because they're afraid of will I upset her by saying something good? Like you ought to sit with yourself and actually ask myself, this is actually how my friendships are. Do I only go to my friends for help? And sometimes if you're not sure, ask your friends. Be like, okay, do you think that I'm actually there for you in the way that you need me to be, right? And if your friend is understanding and compassionate, they'll be able to tell you, okay, I don't think you have been, but this is because maybe you're going through XYZ and I understand. But because they understand does not mean that you should not make an effort. Because a lot of us, and the same thing with your boyfriends and in your relationships, because your boyfriend understands what you are going through and so you're not able to go out on dates or you're not able to be around him and his friends, does not mean that you should not try to make an effort. You still should, because at the end of the day you are in a relationship with these people and their emotions matter just as much as you think yours matters. Their mental health too also matters just as much as you think yours matters too, right? So if you know you're in a place where you feel like you actually can't be that, it's okay to communicate that. It's okay to be like, okay guys, I don't think that I can be there the way that you need me to for this reason, but I'm still here. If you need me, I'm still here, but I don't think I can, be as hands-on. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But don't just only be going when you're like an ATM machine. You put your card, you put your card. One day we finish.
Facts. And I also want to speak to, because you mentioned like the fixer friends.
Mm-hmm.
If you're finding that you are like the fixer to a bunch of other people and relationship dynamics, I feel like that's like you need to go and assess what's going on for you, because and maybe this is a little bit direct and I don't mean it to be like hard or direct, but you're just as complacent in what's going on as the person who keeps coming and trauma dumping on you. Like if you feel like you're in a place where, why can't you set boundaries? What does it mean to set boundaries with somebody? Yes, they may react or respond in a way that is like create some tension, but I feel like if my friend came to me and was like, look Paula, like I understand what you're going through, but I don't have the capacity for this. I have enough faith in my friendship that like, okay, I know that the place that you're coming from is not to be malicious or is not to be disrespectful or is not to be mean, but you're actually doing this, number one, to protect yourself, great, to protect our friendship as well, and to protect my own mental health. Because the last thing you also want to do is go to a friend who's like really wants to genuinely help you, but they're at their wits' end and then they just say something off the cuff, and then that's how a very good and loving relationship just
dissipates. Exactly. And it takes a lot to restore that friendship, because when that happens, a lot of things are left to imagination, especially when there's no communication between both parties. There's this disconnect of one person is feeling like when I needed her she wasn't there, and the other person is feeling like I did my best to be there for you but it was too much on me, right? So I feel like to avoid getting to that point with your friends, honestly, really and truly, it's good for you to take a step back and even ask, because sometimes people will not tell you for fear of how you might react or how you might feel, but it is taking a toll on them, and you have to be able to acknowledge that, because if you don't, you end up losing friends who are good for you because you have refused to understand that people also have emotions. And we don't need to be direct or to be like hurtful or to make you feel like, okay, you're the problem. But if you do not learn these things, like this is the growth, these are parts of like the vulnerable conversations that we need to have, the deep ones that we don't really necessarily like talking about. No one wants to feel like they are the problem, especially when they are going through something as deep as like mental health disorder. But it would be a disservice to me, and also it would be a disservice to you if I sat here and I acted like you're always in the right, everything that you do is right. Because sometimes you can hurt people using your own trauma, and that doesn't work out. Take it from somebody who did that. In 2021, I feel like I lost almost all my friendships because of that. This is exactly what we're talking about. Trauma bombing. Just coming to someone and pouring everything without thinking of how they are feeling. Just not accounting for the fact that my friends are not good and they can only do so much.
having friends who literally felt like they could only walk on eggshells around me because of they were scared that one thing they say will set me off. Like that's not the way to live. I've been in friendships now where I'm able to communicate freely and they're able to understand. And trust me, having that life is not fun because one day you will lose all of them, and it will not be because they are bad people. It will simply be because you did not do what you needed to do. And I had to learn the hard way. So I've learned to, you don't have to learn. Like, you don't have to experience it. So if you need to, take some time out. If you're afraid of doing invited, invite them to your house, make food. Be like, I want to talk about this. I want to know if
hard conversations, it's a fact. Hard conversations are genuinely go better
over food. Like, invite them to your house. Cool. Even go out to dinner. Have a journal with you that you write down every question you want to ask. If tears need to be cried, cry the tears, because your friendship is far worth more than whatever it is that might be going on. So honestly, like, and it's only just this year and 2 years now that some of these relationships are being restored like fully, because it got to a point where I drew a line for their sake, where I was like, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to do this because I know that I'm not ready. I don't know how to do it just yet. I don't know how to do it well. So I'd rather not. So I had like only one person, and even her, I didn't even tell her everything. Or I would call her and be like, I want to tell you anything, but if you know you're not willing to like talk, we don't have to talk about it, right? So there are things like that. So honestly, before you get to a point where you're having to restore, you're having to catch up on 2 years of gist. Do you know what 2 years of gist is?
Bruh.
2 years of
people get married, have children,
and you're missing out on all of that because of things that you could have handled better. Honestly, like, make the decision to do better and to be better.
Yeah. And something that I think is so important, because I think that there's a fine line between I'm isolating myself in terms of protecting my friends versus I'm having meaningful conversations with my friends and understanding what their capacity is, and then we're choosing to go in a different direction, right? Because you could just say, well, I'm protecting my friends and therefore I'm going to not talk to anybody, and then boom, you're in a very vulnerable place and position. Versus your friend can be like, yeah, I don't have the capacity right now to help you handle this situation, but number one, maybe I have some resources, or I know somebody
who can help.
I spoke to someone, or I know you people have rich friends. Look, you don't have money for therapy, go find yourself a therapist. I'll pay. Like, that is still support, right? It doesn't have to be
like even because I've had like spiritual people like above me be like, okay, I'll pay for your therapy. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, just go and get help, no, because they knew that they didn't have the capacity. Like, my pastor can pray with and for me, and he has, but like there's the same place that like you actually like have to actually make that decision for yourself to get better, like making that decision for yourself. Which brings me to my next question. Do you think that do you think therapy and prayer are mutually exclusive in terms of overcoming like mental health issues?
When you say mutually exclusive,
like, do you
it's
think
either
that it's
therapy or like prayer? They're not mutually exclusive. Go and pray. Go and pray. Because it's from the place of prayer that God will give you clarity on how to go and do these different things, right? Pray and go to therapy. And if you need to, take medication and talk to your support system and talk to your pastor and fast. It's not just do it all. Do it all. But first of all, go to a place of prayer. Because I think that, again, that brings a lot of clarity. God reveals, oh, this person might be a good person for you to go and speak to about this specific thing. And like, they'll have wisdom. Or God will be like, this is a therapist that you need to go on.
That you need to go and talk to.
Like, 100%. Or this is the past. Please just pray. Just pray. Prayer leads to all of these other things. And don't not pray, or don't not follow through with the clarity that you get in prayer. So it's not enough to just say, oh, I'm praying. Good. That's a good first step, but take
what
those
next?
steps.
Yeah. What next? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Like, that thing that you said of having people who I literally thought about it when as I was prepping, not prepping, but like as I was thinking of the episode, and like there's something that that dropped in my heart that I knew that I could relate to, because there's certain times when I have been struggling and I just didn't know who to talk to about it, not because there was a lack of people, but because I wasn't sure exactly who could handle it in that moment. So I was like, okay, God, help me. And that help came in by just a random somebody that I'm not necessarily even that close to, but we have enough of a rapport to talk. And they come and they just give me the biggest hug, and it's almost like I melt. I just start crying and I don't even know why. In my head I'm like, oh God, not again. But on the outside, it's like my whole body is betraying like me and it's telling me, okay, you actually need this. And we just talk about it, and I might not necessarily go into like the deepest of details, but they're able to say a word to me that just sinks in my spirit. And honestly, I would say that, like she said, like I completely 100% agree with everything that you said. I didn't even think about fasting, and you see, spiritual people, you see, can you see that? But I didn't even think, I didn't even think about fasting like for like your mental health, but 100% like the whole 9 years, the whole package. You can't do, because I was thinking about it and I was telling God, like, what do you like? Is it only, because I know it's not only by prayer, because I've prayed and and I've also only like gone to therapy, but I've found that talking to people, going to therapy, praying, going to church every Sunday at the barest of the barest minimum, like, and this is just the barest of the minimum,
right.
Like,
sometimes
but there's something about being in a room with other believers worshiping. And there's a moment in time where God can literally just grab you there, like just grab you there, and everything that has gone on with the past week will just make perfect sense. Like, it's just, you just get clarity as to why you're feeling what you're feeling. But sometimes that pastor will tell you, if you're dealing with mental issues, come out, and you just have the boldness to come out, and you are equipped for what you need, right? So there's things like that, and this and all of this is not to diminish the potency of the power of God. Because with just one touch, I promise you, there are people who I've heard, and maybe I didn't know them in real life, but I've seen their testimonies where they struggled with like chronic like depression, like they were at the point of, okay, I'm wrapping this up, like let's wrap up this whole world thing, but they just got invited to one church one time, and God touched them, and they left completely different people. So this is not to tell you that God can't do it, but there are people who that is their testimony, and there are people who have to go through the rugged, process, but that process will ultimately make you better. So and I think that one thing that I struggled with when I started, or rather when I actually came into awareness of this, is that I used to feel like therapy was me saying everything that I was insane. It sounds bad, but I remember the first time when Omari had to like call, I was so upset that she called. I was like, that's not your right. Why would you do that? I was so upset because I was like, to me, it just felt like I was saying that you're a bad person, and maybe that was just a Nigerian in me, because you know how we joke about all these things, saying this person belongs in Yama left, stuff like that, and I just felt like I was admitting that it just felt like somebody had put me like, one of those those outfits where those straight jacket. I literally just felt like that was what I looked like, but that stigma God had to break it, because he was like, my dear, you don't go, you will stop.
No, and that's another slight tangent. That's another reason why I think that God pivoted me in terms of my career, because thank God for my positioning. I'm a Black Christian woman. I grew up Nigerian, where the stigma around mental health is so it's lit.
It's
like
hot as steaming.
I'm privileged enough to be a leader at a church. To say that I'm a therapist, me just existing is breaking stigma by the grace of God.
Do you guys
and I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm just like, I'm a therapist.
100%.
I love God. I love Jesus. I believe in the power of God, and I also do therapy, and I've also been to therapy. So
just that alone is able to help someone know that, okay, you know what, I'm not alone. I'm not alone, and I can find people who can relate, because I find that there has been a disconnect sometimes when I was in therapy for in school. I had to talk to a white Gen X man, and half the things I said he could not translate. It wasn't even, and I could tell that he wasn't even trying to be he was just quiet half of the time, because he would ask me specific questions, but there were things that I would mention, and things that at least somebody who grew up in an African home, not even just Nigerian, an African home period, African Jamaican home, will even tell you, okay, this is actually and you can see it, and it will not sound foreign to them because they know. But this man had no bearing as to what exactly to do. I've had it with white women, but the one time I actually had it wasn't necessarily therapy, it was counseling. It was Christian counseling, but she specialized in mental health issues and stuff like that. I spoke to her. She was a Nigerian woman, a mom, but she was somebody who had gone through life and also helped other younger girls navigate some of the issues that I was going through. And I promise you, that was the best I felt in that moment, because it really helped me a lot. It helped my thinking. She helped me navigate a lot of the things that I was able to understand about why I felt the way that I felt, and how to even go about navigating these things. And she was the first person who actually introduced me to going out on a date by myself. I didn't even know I could do that. She asked me to do that. She asked me to go do my nails. Like, these are things that to you might sound really, really small, but that was a lot for me, a big step for me to actually take, to decide that randomly I'm going to go in the middle of a restaurant with my phone on Netflix just eating. I didn't even know I could do that, but I started doing that and it gave me more confidence. Like, it really helped my self-esteem. There were so many things that I could speak to her about that I feel like I could never have spoken to anyone else about. So I feel like that, if you know you are especially a black woman of African or Jamaican descent, please do yourself a favor and find yourself somebody who can relate to an extent, even especially if you're a Christian. Because when you don't have something about the Holy Spirit and somebody's just looking at you, they're like
writing stuff down. No.
And then asking you to do yoga.
No, but it's true, because I see a lot of like clients that look like me.
Mm-hmm.
They be talking about the Holy Spirit, they be talking about their 3-day fast. I'm like, yeah, no, like I definitely understand and I support, and I can even like, we pray in sessions together. We like you know, sometimes I'll drop like, oh well, like look at this Bible verse, or like what is this? It's just it's nice. And that, again, that's not to say therapy or Christian counselor replaces prayer, but in the presence of God. Presence of God is
There's fullness of joy.
Presence of God is in the therapy session. Presence of God is when you're praying on the mountain. Presence of God is when you're in church just worshiping. Presence of God is when your pastor's talking. Presence of God is when you're like
with your friends.
Yeah.
And they're just asking you how you are, and you're able to just be like, this is what's going through. And our friend has that one thing to say that just feels like, wow, okay, thank you. You know, the presence of God is everywhere. So don't think that therapy is just this thing that is, because I find that a lot of people just kind of be like, okay, I'm going to therapy, but it's so isolated from God and like just your Christian walk and journey. But God cares about your mental health, so more than you even think that He does. So yeah, there's that too. So this video is running long, so we're going to make it 2 parts.
Ooh, wow.
We're going to make it 2 parts. We're going to wrap up the first part, and then you're going to have to go to part 2. And in part 2, we're going to be talking about, you know, practical things that you can do as someone who struggles with mental health, or someone who has people around them or loved ones who are actually struggling, and things that you can do to help them and also help yourself. But to wrap up this part, I have actually 2 questions. The first question is, in my experience, right, I always used to tell people that for me, depression feels like I'm my own up a lot of the time, and even like addiction to like porn, it literally feels like I'm my own up, like I'm the one who is fighting myself. Like, it doesn't even feel like, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's the enemy doing these things to me. It just feels like it's me. Like, it's a battle in my mind that I'm fighting, and it feels like I'm fighting myself. And the Bible does say, like, you know, you have to like kill the flesh and like die to your flesh and die to yourself, but it just feels like my mind has me captive. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, but how do you go about navigating that, like, to the process of victory? And this is just things that maybe you have said to people that have helped, and like help them kind of navigate that mental struggle and battle within themselves.
Something key that you said a lot of. You said I. You said I. Where's me? It's me and the Holy Spirit. It's me and the Holy Spirit fighting this battle. It's me and God fighting. It's not. I'm not fighting anything by myself, because who am I to fight anything by myself? So I think really understanding that. First of all, it's not you doing everything by yourself. You're in partnership with the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And talk about it. That's the part that, because, and again, no shade to our church folk. Shame. I'm like, are we the agents of shame, or is the devil the agent of shame? Because I can't go and talk about something and then feel like the people at the pulpit themselves
are like looking down at me like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, so I think that number one, knowing that you're not in it by yourself, and the moment that you feel like you're in it by yourself, it's over.
Yeah.
Partner with God. Not even partner with God. Let God partner with you.
Let God even lead you, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, can you guys see me? I'm learning. So I hope you're taking down notes. I hope. The last question for this part is this one is it's a bit tricky, you know. Do you think that the church and just the Christian community as a whole has done a good job of helping those who are struggling with these issues and just equipping them with the right things? And this even goes past like anxiety or depression, because a lot of people think that mental health ends at anxiety, depression, and addiction. There's PTSD, there is like there's so many, like there's a myriad of issues. DSM-5 is like a whole it's a whole booklet, bro.
A booklet is an understatement.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
So do you think that the church has done a good job, or rather because I don't mean this to bash, because a lot of people just sit on their couches and be like, the church, forgetting that we are the church. You and I are the church.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like in maybe church leadership, what are some things that maybe for a pastor or a team lead, maybe a pastor might not watch this, a team lead who's watching, that can actually, like, what are some things that you feel like they can do to help? Or in your opinion, have we done a good job, or have we just
know your capacity. And also know that you're not blameless in stuff. So I don't know if I'm this question. Yeah, I would say know your capacity. And also understand that like nobody genuinely chooses to suffer with mental health. I also think that like we are doing better as a church community. I think that there's a lot of dialogue that is happening now, and leadership and pastors and all of these people are becoming more aware. I also think that it's important that like for us to integrate, and maybe this is a big ask, but for us to integrate like, I don't want to say sensitivity training, but just training into like the training that people get in leadership. So I'm not saying go and get a whole degree
in like psychotherapy,
but like know how to address and talk about these issues, and also know that if you can't, like build yourself a resource toolkit. You know, like for example, now if you're a pastor and you're like, mental health is not my area of specialty. I don't know. I don't really know anything. But here is a list of vetted people that I know could be of help to the church, right? And so I'm gonna go and consult on this, like whether it's the pastor themselves or the person consulting themselves with these people, and then coming back to address the issues of the like congregation member, or whether it's them being like, I'm gonna support you in the best way that I can, which is for me to like outsource this. Because as your pastor, as your leader, I can go and pray for you. I can go and check up on you, but I can't do certain things for you because it's not within my capacity, and it's okay for me to like understand that and to bring somebody else who could. So
that's good.
And also to talk about it, like, and I'm so thankful for the church that we go to, because I think that we do a really good job of talking and addressing and praying for mental health. Not just praying when somebody's like, I'm going through something, and we just pray in the closet. Like from the pulpit, we pray about
it.
Congregations
very
mental
open
health.
about.
We pray about mental health in the city of Ottawa. Like we pray about these things from the pulpit. Number one, I think that also lets people know that okay, this is a safe space for me to go and talk about my mental health. And again, like, sure, maybe our pastors and not specifically, but like, sure, maybe pastors or leaders, they may not know what to do specifically, but they can go to their place of prayer, pray about it, and then God
will like tell them, okay, this is what you should do, this is what maybe your congregation needs in terms of help. Well, okay, that makes sense. This brings us to the end of part one. I'm not even going to do like an ending thing because we're going to be back. It's just us cutting the video short now so that we can address more, so that we're not like trying to search everything up in time and all of that stuff. So I hope you genuinely enjoyed part one. Send this to a friend of yours who you know is struggling, or has a friend or a loved one who's struggling, because I believe that they will be the better for it. Not because it's us speaking, but I feel like a lot of the things that we've shared, I know I've learned a lot, but a lot of things that we've shared are things that God wants people to know about practically and also like spiritually. So yes, this brings us to the end of part one. We'll see you guys in part two. Bye.